The GameCube is a fantastic piece of hardware. Nintendo finally made the jump to discs, with an asterisk. We had 480p video, a beautiful dual stick controller, GBA support, the GBA player itself, and most important of all, some of the best games ever made. Mario Sunshine, Wind Waker, Pikmin, Metroid, Luigi's Mansion, Smash Melee, Twilight Princess. So why didn't anybody buy it? Oh yeah, that happened. Not to say nobody bought the GameCube. It did sell worse than the N64, but it wasn't a huge disaster like the Wii U was. According to Wikipedia, Nintendo predicted that they'd have 50 million GameCube sales by 2005, but they never even hit half of that by the end of the generation, only sitting at roughly 22 million units sold. Even the original Xbox sold more than that, and it was the newcomer to this generation. There's probably a plethora of reasons why this console didn't sell very well, but we're not here to talk about that today. We're here because I built the ultimate GameCube. I say I, but I really mean we. My friend James did a lot of the heavy lifting by doing the more intricate soldering on this project, since quite frankly, I'm not the greatest at it. You can check out his channel Tech Mayhem down in the description below. But anyways, I set out to take this bone stock GameCube and turn it into a fully featured modern console. Before we get started, I want to make one thing clear. I am not a professional and this is not a tutorial. I just thought it'd be fun to document this project and kind of show how far you can push the GameCube with these mods and stuff. Anyways, let's talk about all the mods we're throwing into this little guy. For starters, we have this clean looking third-party GameCube shell from AliExpress. This wasn't necessary, but I wanted to change up the whole look of this console. Then we have a Raspberry Pi Pico so we can do Pico boot and run homebrew. Next is a Noctua fan mod which replaces the stock fan. Then there's this fancy SD to SP2 adapter which allows you to use SD cards. These are usually just single chips, but this one has an adapter that makes it a whole lot cleaner and more accessible. We'll also be replacing the front controller board with the Blue Retro internal controller adapter mod. This thing apparently allows you to connect Bluetooth controllers to it. And last but not least, a USB-C power mod. Oh yeah, I also forgot to mention we got a Pluto HDMI kit as well, but I may or may not have forgotten to record footage of it. Now some of you that are watching this that may or may not have kept up with the current GameCube modding scene might be asking, where's the flippy drive? I'm unsubscribing. While I did order one for this video, my batch doesn't ship until the end of the month. So we'll have to do with Pico boot for now. I know, end of the world. I will be doing a video at a later date installing the flippy drive, so stay tuned for that. So with all that out of the way, I went over to my friend James's house and we started ripping this GameCube apart to make it ultimate. Did I really have to write that? It's kind of cringe. Before I started disassembling this GameCube, I noticed there was some brown marks through the vent on the side. That means one or two things: rust or roaches. Luckily for me, it was not roaches, but liquid damage, which honestly still sucks. Either way, I continued on tearing down the GameCube until I got to the board and I realized that this thing has way more water damage than I wanted to have in this custom cube. It still did work, but we decided to tear down another GameCube that doesn't have water damage and use that instead. Once again, I got to the heatsink and yeah, I was really hoping I wouldn't rip the thermal pad, but what's done is done. The pads are going to be replaced anyway. James then took the disk drive and started recapping it, and I went ahead and started on installing the Pi Pico. The reason we decided to recap the disk drive is because these capacitors are 20 plus years old, as much as we don't want to admit it. When these capacitors start to die, it basically makes it so the disk drive can't read games anymore. This GameCube in particular had a perfectly fine disk drive, but it's better to do it now while we have the disk drive out than to worry about it later when it eventually fails. So I finished installing the 5 wires for the Pico to the motherboard, and James finished capping the disk drive. Now this is where things go wrong. See, the Pluto HDMI kit is a pretty intense mod to do. It takes like 20 wires, or you could use this cool little ribbon cable that makes it simpler. This seems simple on paper, but it doesn't work. James tried every orientation possible. He even tried soldering the 20 cables instead of the ribbon cable. After hours of trying, we just came to the conclusion that this Pluto board was dead.
Come here.
So what now? This is one of the biggest reasons I wanted to do this mod. Having an HDMI port built into the GameCube has always been a dream of mine. So what are we gonna do? We just ordered another one and put it in, and it worked. It's kind of anticlimactic, but hey, at least we got it now. I went ahead and installed the Blue Retro adapter into the front shell and finished installing the Pi Pico, which I will say I am pretty proud of my solder job here. I also installed the Noctua fan mod and USB-C mod, but completely forgot to film it, so enjoy this footage of my cat, Mr. P. Anyways, after we got everything installed, we crammed the case together and it was done. Here it is, in all its glory. It was kind of a rough road to get here, but honestly, I think it turned out pretty good. But there was one thing we weren't able to do. See these holes in the front panel? Well, the original idea we were going for with this was to have the LEDs shine through. It's been done before with stock front panel motherboards, but for some reason, it just wouldn't work with the blue retro board. It would only light up the third controller port, and we tried some pretty wacky configurations to try and get around that limitation, but it still didn't work. So yeah, now I have holes right here in my front panel, and honestly, it isn't really a big deal. And if I really felt like it, I could always go get another front panel replacement. So yeah, let's actually use this thing. Starting off, I want to show off some of what you can actually do with PicoBoot. PicoBoot allows you to basically run homebrew applications, back up games, and run games from the SD card. There are more uses than just that, like emulation. But that's basically what I use it for. Clean Rip is always my go-to application because having backups of your games is always nice. And you can always move them to your PC to emulate using Dolphin. It's also kind of cool how you can use Swiss to view the contents of the disk. Homebrew aside, let's actually get into some comparisons between the Pluto HDMI board and other external solutions like the Carby I have right here. This is kind of anticlimactic, but there's basically no difference. You're getting the same experience with whichever one you go with. It really just comes down to your preference and whether you want to go through installing a Pluto HDMI kit. Either way, I'll show a few different games here just in case somebody can see a difference that I don't. Another thing I want to talk about is the Noctua fan mod. On paper, this seems pretty cool. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the stock GameCube fan, but why not replace it with something better? Well, it isn't really that much better, to be honest. Arguably, it makes the Cube run a bit hotter than the stock fan. It's still within a safe operating temp for the GameCube, but I'm not sure what I really expected. It does make sense though, since this fan is smaller than the stock one. But the coolest thing that feels so wrong at the same time is the fact that you can connect Bluetooth controllers to the GameCube using the Blue Retro front panel replacement board. Look, I'm using an Xbox Series controller on here and it just works, as wrong as it feels. Unfortunately though, the new Switch 2 GameCube controller doesn't work with this adapter, or at least I couldn't get it to work. I figured this would have been the perfect use case for this controller though. So yeah, this was building my ultimate GameCube. It might not be the best, but honestly, I think it's pretty dang good. I've always wanted to do something like this, especially the internal HDMI mod and the Bluetooth controller board. And honestly, I couldn't have done it without my friend James. He really helped out, especially with the harder soldering and the Pluto board and the recapping. And honestly, just letting me use his house to come and do these stupid projects, so shout out. It's also so nice not having to use any adapters or component cables, and you just plug the HDMI straight into the console. And just being able to use my ROG Ally charger to power the GameCube with the USB-C mod is just so convenient. I didn't talk a whole lot about the USB-C mod because honestly, it just kind of plugs in and works. There's no soldering. It's very easy to install, and even if you don't have a whole lot of skills taking apart consoles, do this mod. It's very convenient. Anyways, that's about all I have here today. So if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to drop a like, leave a comment, and tell me what you thought, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.